Yeah, that's me, caught in the middle of a three wide into Tiergarten, the last corner of the Nordschleife. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's go back to the beginning. I see a lot of toxic, abusive, trolling behaviour in this game from drivers who perceive someone else to be slower than them. And this isn't exclusively a problem in the top split tiers. This is a problem all the way down the ranks. So your average B driver, who by the global metric is not fast, will make fun of a C driver or even another B driver that he's faster than them. This is apart from demonstrating some kind of narcissistic personality disorder. This is pretty unwise because you never quite know if the person you're making fun of, if the person you're trolling, might just end up being as fast as you. And if that day comes that the person you've trolled for being slow ends up being as fast as you might just end up succumbing to the pressure of not being able to beat or drop that individual. And that individual might take a great deal of satisfaction from the fact that you caved under the pressure. It might surprise you to learn that I have been trolled, made fun of, and received toxic abuse in general for being slow for my entire Gran Turismo, specifically sport mode, journey so far. I remember it happening as a B rank driver. I remember it happening as an A rank driver and as a lower A plus driver. And for the record, now that I hold a position within the community as a well-known, reasonably fast driver with a role as a coach, I deliberately position myself as the antidote to that behaviour. So if you are looking for a non-toxic environment, a supportive, encouraging environment, please come and join us on the Digit Racing Discord server, where we have a great team of moderators and take a zero tolerance approach to toxicity. The driver in front of me right now is one such driver. I've made a video featuring this guy before. I called it Is Top Split Clean? I'll link that video in the cards at the end of this video. And that video received over 5,000 views, which at the time I barely had 1,000 subscribers, so it was a popular video. And in that video, I'll refer to this driver as DD from here on because that's what he's normally best known by. In that video, DD made some unwise, desperate moves in order to try and beat me, and then ended up backfiring and he destroyed his own race. And I was very diplomatic, I was very tactful about it, but I'm also not one to shy away from what I feel needs to be said. I think I just try to do it in the right way. So this video could be considered part 2 of that video. And to summarize points made in that video, DD is one of those drivers that made fun of me for being slow. He's one of those drivers that when starting from the back, he was a quote-unquote alien and I was a slow A+ driver several times. I understand contact happens, and a lot of the time that is more on the fault of the slower driver than the faster driver, but it's also the other way round too. And a lot of times he would just simply push me out the way, not even subtle. It was just blatant, ramming me out of the way, tracking me out into the wall in order to take the position. And what I didn't say in that previous video was I actually confronted him about it. So I actually went onto a Discord server. I won't mention which Discord server it was because I don't want the owner of that Discord server to get bad repute for this. It's not his fault. I went onto a Discord server where I knew DD was present and I called him out on it. And now, admittedly, emotions were running high. Admittedly, I was angry. What I got in response was trolling. A disregard, lack of care, making fun of me for being slow. I own the road, not you. Now, fast forward to now, and we are in exactly that situation. The driver in front is a known troller and known, for want of a better, less blunt term, dirty driver. And I'm as fast as him now. So what's going to happen? Well, let me tell you something. And I'm going to make another video about the psychology of sim racing. I've already done part 1. Part 2 is going to deal with the flow state and being in that flow state. And when you're in that flow state, you are basically untouchable within your skill level, okay? Within your skill level. You can fall out of your flow state by going too hard, pushing too much beyond your skill level. But when you're in that flow state, the chances of you making a mistake are pretty damn low. And when you see me have bad races, it's pretty much because I'm not in that flow state, because I can't access it all the time. But I had it here. I had the flow state here. And I knew from the body language of DD's car that he was feeling the pressure. That he was the one that was more likely to make a mistake than I was. Now, for the record, DD didn't do anything dirty in this race. So if you're waiting for the moment where I say, look what he did, look how aggressive and unwise his moves were, nothing like that happened. He actually drove extremely well. He was actually extremely clean and respectful with me, and he didn't do anything in this race that I was unhappy with. He didn't do anything in this race that I wouldn't have done myself. But the moral of the story is be careful who you make fun of, because you can't predict the future. And you can't say for a certainty at whatever rank you're at that that person you're making fun of isn't going to end up beating you fair and square on pure pace. So there's the mistake that I knew was coming, that I could see coming. And again, he did a great job. He gave me room. He didn't try and block me. He deliberately swerved slightly to the right to make sure that I had space. And true to my own teachings in my own videos, I had been trying to win an ally out of DD in the race up to this point. I'll stop short of saying trying to win a friend. I don't think that's what I'm aiming for here, but I had been bump drafting him earlier in the race whenever possible. I actually tapped his back end into one corner accidentally, very, very minor tap, and deliberately lifted off the throttle and resumed bump drafting him to show him that I want to race clean with you. So hopefully that was instrumental in why he chose to give me space when he made a mistake, and hopefully that's instrumental in why he now is choosing to bump draft me so that we catch up to the leader. So once again, I had absolutely no complaints with the way DD is now choosing to race me, and hopefully this is how he continues to race me going forwards. So with the aid of DD's bump drafting and a small mistake from the leader, we caught up to the leader, and then the tactics start to be played. So P1 here just simply pulls over, lifts out of the throttle, and lets me go by. This is a tactic. This is not wanting to be leading down the Dottinghurst straight, because whoever's leading isn't going to win the race. Or are they? Well, I had a tactic in mind too. It took me all of about zero point 0.2 of a second to come up with a plan to counter Thibs' tactics. Now, I have no problem with Thibs' tactics here, none at all, okay? Let me be absolutely clear about that. I hold no ill will to what he did there. It's not unfair. It's not against sporting code of conduct. I have no issue with it. But if we're going to have a tactical race, then I'm going to have to employ those same kind of tactics myself. So I did what I think was probably even more unexpected. I maintained the lead onto the Dottingerhurst Straight. I allowed them to think that I was falling into the trap, that I was accepting that I wasn't going to win. And as we came round onto the Dottingerhurst Straight, I just lifted and deliberately slowed the car. And as you can see, Thib and Didi did the exact same thing, and what this does is completely neutralizes the slipstream. No one can now gain any slipstream from anyone. Now, it's worth mentioning these two guys are teammates. If this was me and Digit, we would have worked together to secure P1 and 2 and probably not fought for who wins. But Didi really wanted the win, and that was his mistake, because in doing so he gave me the slipstream and an opportunity, and I'll fully concede this is an aggressive move. If you're clean with me, I'm probably not going to pull this move off. But if you're a known bad driver, I'm going to be more aggressive with you. Thanks for the win, Didi. But we aren't done yet, my friends. Let's go again. So, race 2. This time Didi's teammate isn't in the race. Didi's starting on pole, me P2. And as we head into the first turn, Didi gets it wrong, goes a bit deep. I really wasn't sure at the time whether this was deliberately trying to play an early tactic and give me the lead, or whether it was a genuine mistake. So I was happy to take the lead if it appeared that that's what it was, but it seemed like he was happy to resume the lead, so fine, okay, let's carry on. Evidently that was just a mistake. Jumping forwards, it's actually me that makes the first more serious mistake. So I used to play chess. Sorry for that sort of left field illustration here, but in chess they teach you that it's not your first mistake that ruins your game, it's usually the second mistake. And I've come to observe that it's exactly the same in sim racing. When you make a mistake in sim racing, if you let the pressure get to you, if you let the nerves and the anxiety of that mistake get to you, you're probably going to make a second, even more serious mistake. So there's the mistake, got off track, didn't lose any time in the moment, but I've now got dirty tyres. In this situation, you have to accept that you are going to lose time now. If you try to make up for dirty tyres by pushing harder, or if you don't take into consideration the fact that you've got dirty tyres and you can't push as hard, you are going off track straight into the barrier. That's the second mistake that is going to ruin your race. Put your hand up if you've done that. I know I have. But what often happens here, psychologically speaking, is the car in front now tries to take advantage of the mistake that you've made, and they now try to push harder. And that, I believe, was Didi's mistake. I believe that was a psychological error. Seeing me make a mistake, seeing me get dirty tyres, I believe he tried to push even harder to break me, which was a pretty bad idea because we're coming up to two very long straights and he doesn't have a slipstream. What's more, I've got NDO behind me, who's a very fast, very clean, very respectful driver. And if your situational awareness is in tune with what's actually happening, you'll know that there's no way you're going to break me in this situation, at least not with Didi's pace. A World Tour driver? Possibly. So I stayed cool, I stayed in the moment, it didn't break my flow, it was just a mistake. Didi made another mistake in response to my mistake. So what I do here is, again, psychological games, if you like. I am quite known for deferring to faster drivers. If that had been Valerio Gallo, Mikael Hazal, any number of the World Tour drivers, I 100% would have bump drafted them. I wouldn't have gone for the move. They're the faster driver. Stay behind them. Try to learn from them. Use their pace to increase your pace. By going for the move early on with Didi, what I'm saying is I don't consider you to be faster than me. So yes, it's psychological games, and psychological strength is extremely important in sim racing. Again, going to be talking a lot more about that in an upcoming video. I am by no means a master of it at all. I have made every mistake under the book and continue to do so, but I'm improving and I'm getting better with it. So that puts me in the lead. I've now got NDO behind me and Didi in third. Now I trust NDO implicitly. He's on the Digit Racing Discord. I believe he's quite a young driver, but we've had quite a number of races together. It's always been good. It's always been clean. There's never been any problems. This puts me in a confident situation because I trust the driver behind me and I trust him to make smart, wise decisions. Jumping forwards to lap 2, Didi's taken P2 from NDO, and then he decides to take the lead here, to retake the lead. Now, I think personally this is a bad idea, because unless you're planning tactics at the end, which probably was, then being in P2 or P3 heading down the Döttinger-Hirsch straight at the end of the race is preferable to being in the lead, typically speaking. So that may have been another psychological move, the same as I did to Didi, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, I'm employing those tactics myself. So I'm in P3, and I'm perfectly happy to sit in P3 all the way to the end of the lap on the Döttinger-Hirsch straight. Jumping forwards a bit, it's actually Didi who cracks under the pressure and makes a pretty serious mistake. At first I wasn't entirely sure if maybe it was another tactic to give up the lead deliberately, but no, you wouldn't put it in the wall and get dirty tyres like that deliberately. That's simply braking far too late for the corner. That's cracking under the pressure. And you might say, well, is it cracking under the pressure really, or is it just a mistake on a very punishing track? Yes, that does of course happen, but drivers of this level in Group 4 machinery, in a race which is, it's a full A+ lobby, but it's not a stacked race, so to speak, that's cracking under the pressure. That's not just making a mistake. These drivers are far too good to be making simple errors like that, and when you see me do something similar, it's exactly that. It's cracking under the pressure. Jumping forwards a little bit more, and this time it's NDO that gets it wrong. Now this probably is more of the unforced error without being particularly under pressure kind of mistake, the green hell punishing track kind of mistake. And the reason you can tell the difference is that Didi's mistake was in a straight line braking zone, whereas NDO's mistake was where you have to ride those curbs at exactly the right angle in a car that really doesn't like curbs and bounces around quite wildly if you get it wrong. So this gave me a lead. This put me 1.4 seconds ahead of Didi, and if you watch the delta in the top left hand corner, you see that the delta actually increases. So I assume Didi made another mistake pushing too hard to try and catch up, but the delta actually increases to almost 1.7, 1.8 seconds, I think, if I remember correctly, which should have been plenty to actually win the race, despite the custom slipstream, despite them bump drafting each other on the straight, which they're certainly going to do. There we go, you can see it got up to 1.7, almost 1.8, and then, yeah, there we go, 1.8. And then the last two corners here, I didn't make any mistakes. I took them fine, but I do concede to being cautious through those two corners in order to not make any mistakes. But all I can say is, credit where it's due, those two guys must have absolutely nailed the last two corners, because as we turned on to the Döttinger-Hirsch straight, I knew immediately that 1.2 seconds was not going to be enough. It should be enough. Without the custom slipstream, it would be enough. So, on merit, on pace, the race was won. But defending against the custom slipstream with 2 guys bump drafting behind you, 1.2 seconds, is absolutely impossible. So bringing this full circle to the opening sequence, I don't blame either driver for this. Neither of them did anything wrong despite the history with DD. I have no ill feeling towards anything there. I would have done the exact same thing in that situation had I been either of those drivers. And NDO and myself had a good laugh about it on Discord afterwards. Guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, check out the recommended video in the card. Get out of here and go race.